Hi everyone. So today we have with us Simone, currently a data scientist working in France. Simone, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody, hi guys. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, as you said, now I'm a data scientist working in France, even though I'm Italian, as you can see from my jersey from Naples. That is my city. I was
Oh,
born in Naples, and this is the jersey from my team, Napoli.
Okay.
Yeah, I live in France because I started my PhD. I came in France to do my PhD, and then I decided to stay here for a bit longer.
Are you originally from Italy or France?
No, I'm from Italy, and
Okay.
I arrived in Marseille, that is in the south of France. I was born in the south of Italy, and I decided to stay in the south, but in France this time. And yeah, arrived because I did my PhD here in the far 2017. And then, COVID, I think you heard about it. I decided to stay there, and yeah, it's been 8 years that I live here.
You
uh,
mentioned about having a PhD, right?
Yes,
I was checking your LinkedIn and I found that you did it in somewhere around 3 years or so, something.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I've generally seen people doing PhD in 5 years or longer, at least more than 5 years. What's the reason behind these three, completing it into 3 years?
Well, this is true in the sense that people normally they get a bit longer, 4 or 5 years. The reason was that I had like a scholarship that was a part was financed by the PACA region, that is the region where I lived in France, and the other one was uh, by the Horizon Funds, Marie Curie, and it was basically a 3 years scholarship. And then the second reason is because I didn't want to pursue an academic career. So I thought that 3 years was enough for me because I wanted to switch and going in industry. So I think 3 years was enough for me, and I could have asked a bit longer, an extension, but I think there is no reason if you don't want to pursue an academic career, just take your PhD. You can see something, how you do research, and then you go in the real world. I hope academic people will not be upset about that, but it's different.
okay. You have done your bachelor's in physics, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Then how did you shift it to this computer science, or basically that's like you went into computer science and then you have done your master's, PhD.
Well, I did my bachelor and then my master in physics, and it was before, Gemini, before ChatGPT, so before that it was. I think at that time it was computer vision was really the hot topic. Convolutional neural network were like the future. Yeah, we do that, and natural language processing was not so fun when I started. And the reason is why I started to feel like I want to know more about that. And at the first, I was trying to get into neuroscience. So I did like a thesis about grid cell, that are cells that are found in the rat brains. And I tried to get in closer to neuroscience, and then I start to feel that language, the way we uh, detect languages, we do operation with languages was very very interesting, and so I said, okay, I think I will switch to that because it's very very interesting, and it was a great choice, I think, looking at how ChatGPT evolved in the last years.
Maybe I have a question regarding this. You mentioned I was checking a LinkedIn, and you did your PhD in computational linguistic, right?
Yes.
Can you give us a brief idea about what exactly it is?
Mhm.
What's computational linguistic in general?
Yeah, computational linguistics basically try to uh, find a way to compute some characteristic of the language with the machine learning and try to do an analysis of the dataset, but in a more quantitative way. That is not this just not rely on qualitative rules or just experimentation, but try to uh, adopt a more quantitative style, a more quantitative approaches through machine learning, AI, or all the statistic that you can apply. And in particular, my thesis was about telephonic conversation, so about a phenomenon that is called convergence.
Hmm.
Basically, say that when two people interact, they try to converge to a common pattern. And so, for example, if I use a term uh, to refer to something, you will try to accommodate in the same pattern, and you will try to use the same word. Or maybe if I try to speak faster, you try to speak faster. If I use a higher pitch, you try to use an higher pitch. That is something that is used also in marketing. For example, when they try to sell you something, they try to m- mimic you and try to be more closer to you.
So,
Oh,
is it like a visible pattern? Because how does someone observe these things? So, if I'm speaking something, let's say in a particular tone,
Mhm.
maybe the other how the other person is speaking, is that something related to that?
In sense that you mean is voluntarily or involuntarily? You mean that? You mean this?
Maybe let's say, for example, you mentioned that if a person is speaking faster, then other person also tend to speak faster. If a
Mhm,
person is speaking slower, then other person is also speaking slower.
mhm.
I mean, it's a random observation, but is that something where someone needs a bit more research? I'm not sure. I mean, I have
No, in the
zero
sense
idea, but yeah.
it's a phenomenon. It's observed that people tend to do that, or to achieve something. If in the sense, if I want to become, a psychological trick to try to get closer to you,
Yeah.
for example, for sales, or if I want to try to obtain something, or is something that you do in a involuntary way. So you just start to do that, but you are not aware. For example, one thing that they do is, sometimes you can change your accent when you speak for a long time with some people, not just 5 minutes, but when maybe you have some friends that speak a certain dialect, and you start to mimic some expressions, some words that they use. Or is something that we do, for example, with children. When you talk with children, you start, to speak in a simple way. You use a simple concept, or use a high pitch to try to become closer to them, so they are more comfortable to talk with you.
yeah.
It,
Some more phenomena are, I guess, snoring uh, and sneezing are also if you are in a group and someone snoring and then you just think that it automatically
Yeah,
comes.
yeah, it's something like that. I haven't studied that, but yeah, you can say that in this way. Yeah.
But is it something that you found in your research? I mean,
Mhm.
you did analysis on conversation to
Yeah.
find these patterns. Is that what it means?
Yeah, we did that on the some characteristic of the speaking on the voice. For example, the speech rate. So how many words do you say per minute? The intensity, the pitch, how your voice is broken, the semantic, how many, the your vocabulary, if your vocabulary is intersected, is in the first part of the conversation or in the second part of the conversation. And yeah, we found something interesting, that in the second part of the conversation we divided the conversation into part, and in the second part of the conversation we saw that people, for some characteristic, tend to converge. So, for example, if I speak faster and you speak slower, in the second part, people tend to, the one that was speaking very fast in the first conversation tend to speak a bit slower, and the person that was speaking very slow in the first part tend to speak a bit faster in the second part. Yeah, it was all about uh,
Insights
this
maybe.
insight. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you started like you did your PhD, then I guess you also like taught, okay, in colleges for some time, and then how did you shift it to this corporate data science, and how was your experience? Like, how many companies you worked, what kind of things you worked on?
Mhm. Yes, first, before doing my PhD, as you said, I did my master in Italy, and then it was a very strange period because I worked as a teacher, math teacher, for like 2 months. Then I went to Milan, that is in the north of Italy. So I moved in the north to work in a bank for 1 year and a half, and it was nice because you saw the difference between the academic domain and the industry. So things were done
Okay.
really different in a different way. But I felt that I was missing something, so I wanted to get, to know more about natural language processing, about research, how people were doing research, because it was the first year, when people starting to talk about data science. It was in 2016, and so I decided to go to do a PhD. That's why I moved to Marseille, ex-Marseille University. So I was happy to do that. And then I decided, okay, now I saw academia. Now I want to switch again in the industry. But that time was with a different role, clearly, more on data science, because before in the bank I was more a data analyst. So I decided to go for data science using what I learned in my PhD, and I started a project about fisheries. So, nothing with bank or advertising, marketing, because it was 2020. As I
Okay.
said before, it was COVID time, and so we said, okay, with the one of my friend that I met here in Marseille, we said, maybe it's the right time. We don't have family, so maybe it's the right time to do our project and to launch a startup. The things that
Oh,
we everybody has tried once in their life. And we did this project. It was very cool because it was the first project, solo project, and it was not a big industry, but it was we did everything. So it was the first end-to-end project. We collected the data, we did the business plan, all things that I didn't know even by name, and it was very nice. So we did this model, this map, in which fisheries could fish to optimize fisheries activities. It was very very cool, but unfortunately we hadn't a marketing campaign, so we were two tech guys. We had no experience in selling stuff, marketing. For us, it was okay. We do the product and then we start to sell it. So if you want to open a startup and to launch a startup, don't do that. Absolutely, don't do that. Don't do even one line of code before you start to do your marketing campaign, because it's not a good strategy, I could say. But it was cool because at least we saw everything, deployment, how you do stuff in real life. And then after that, I went to marketing in a startup here in Marseille too, that is doing marketing, so recommendation system, all the stuff that you can do with marketing financial data. And yeah, that one. And then decided to go from marketing to advertising. So stop fishing, stop things like that. And now, I mean, it's been 2 years that I'm working in the domain.
You know,
Okay.
we had a conversation with another data scientist who works with into this banking industry.
Hmm.
I mean, what do you think is the visible difference in data science in these two sectors, banking and marketing? I mean,
Yeah, there is a quite huge difference. I don't know where he was is working now, but I was working in the financial for financial data. And they are quite different. There is of course, you have more constraints, you have more boundaries because these data are high sensitive data. So basically, I could access some kind of data, but I could not access other data. So each department could access some data, but you cannot have access to all data. So basically, they make sure that you know maybe the name of the person, but you don't know his financial data, or his open position, so things like that. And it's quite different. Also, because in marketing, I worked in a startup, and I think the bank sector is quite different from a startup. Also in the roles, you have well predefined roles. You have consultants. It's totally different. So I think it's more strict. Like you have your
yeah,
task, you see your task, while in a startup you are more like an handyman. You need to do everything, to do a bit of data engineering, a bit of software engineering, especially when the size of the startup is very small. In the case of the fishing project that I was talking about before, you need really to do everything, deploy, security, everything. But in a bigger organization like bank, you have your task, and this is your task. And then you have to talk with other people, even to deploy something simple.
so you work at startup now?
No, now it's not a startup. It's in between, in the sense that we are 400 people,
Oh,
but it's the data team is quite bigger than the one of a startup. So it's in the middle.
it would be safe to say that you have different people for data science and software engineering.
Yeah, in the sense, I think it's different from a startup because already you have like five data scientists. While in a startup you have maybe it depends by the start from the startup, but you don't have so many data scientists, data engineer, machine learning engineer, software engineer, DevOps. So it really changed.
Have you switched into software engineering? Do you feel like you're losing out on your research skills and diving more into software side?
This is a quite interesting question because I think that data scientist is a dying role. I don't want to say that too, too hard, but if you look, for example, now LinkedIn, and you try to look for a data science role, they are
Everyone
literally
wants.
dying, since the number of open positions for data scientists is they are really really few. They are decreasing, and the one, for example, software engineering, AI engineering, machine learning engineering, they are increasing. So I think the role is really switching because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you just needed to know statistics, a bit of Python programming, and it was fine.
Yeah.
You were on top, and you would be fine. Now you need to know everything. You need to know Docker, you need to know fast API, you need to deploy, you need to to do AI, to fine tune. You need to do everything. Spark, you are a bit on data engineering, a bit of software engineering, and yeah, I think the role is really changing.
Do you think we are heading in the right direction with these? Because like I've also seen this pattern that I see a hiring post and they require all kind of skills from a single person. I mean, they want everything from one person. Is it being a new normal, or will that change in future?
I don't know if it's gonna change. I really would like to know it, but I think if AI continues to go this way, and it will be more and more easy to develop and even to do like an end-to-end project. I think people will must manage more frameworks. So you don't need Python and statistic, but you need everything basically, especially for startups when you have one two people that are from uh, that need to do everything. You need to do everything. So I think things are going in that direction, and you don't need any more
But
statistics. Just
but
statistics is,
but do we actually, according to the job requirements, do we actually do or use those all of the tools which are mentioned? Do we ever use, or does our work actually revolve around all of these tools? Because at the end, when you see the job descriptions, okay, it more looks like the combination of all the jargons which exist in the field right now. Okay, it's not just about data
yeah.
science, it's more about data engineering stuff, then AI engineering. Now people are not actually sure that what the role should be called. You would be seeing that data science analytics engineer.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you would see this role as well, data science analytics engineer, or AI data science developer. So I'm asking that, okay, you have written the JD, but have the hiring manager who was actually like hiring for the roles, do they actually see those job descriptions? Because at the end, if you are hiring for a data science, okay, then you don't actually need people who are like proper data engineers, because otherwise people going to be get confused. Okay, for the beginning roles it's fine, for the entry level roles, because they don't have any particular experience, that they can do anything. But for people who are like, if you are hiring for 3 years 4 years of experience, then what kind of skills you actually want? If you have to hire someone, suppose that you are working in a company right now, and whatever kind of role you do, and if you have to hire for the similar role, so what do you look in a candidate?
but I think this really depends on the role. If you want just someone that needs to do data science and he just need to do his POC and just his notebook with the model, you don't need to know fast API, Docker, or data engineering or software engineering concept. So this is fine. So if I would hire just a data scientist, it's okay. For a bigger company, it's not a problem. But if you are a startup and you need someone that is doing, the POC, the model, the fine tuning, and then you need to deploy the model, you need someone that knows a bit of everything. He cannot master everything for sure, but you need someone that can do everything. The other problem, I think, that today people are asking higher skills, even if they don't need. So sometimes they ask for people for junior profiles. They ask already 2 3 years of experience, or they ask like you need to know Spark or things like that. But if you haven't worked in a bigger company, then they have millions of data, you cannot know Spark or other things. So I think it's also a bit the scarcity of jobs, and that people are requiring higher skills, even if in the actual job you don't need to know everything. You don't need to deploy and to do everything by hand, but they just want more skilled people, even if they don't need all this skill.
I think I think this there might be a difference between how startups or big MNCs work. So startups would generally prefer people who know everything, while bigger companies prefer a specialized candidate into something.
Yeah.
So they prefer more subject matter experts over a generalist guy. But a startup would prefer a generalist guy who have hands on over everything. I believe,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
I was
this is also true. Yeah, you're right, for sure.
I was reading this tweet today by Sam Altman. He
Hmm.
mentioned that he mentioned about how Codex is beautifully working, and by the end of 2026, he see a hard luck for developers who will be building apps
Hmm.
because Codex will be doing everything. Um, I think. Have you used any AI tool, by the way, so for coding purposes?
Yeah, yeah. I use, of course, I use AI because I think it's stupid to not use AI today, even if you
Yep.
know you need to use it because you are so much productive nowadays. I use some AI, really the interface of Gemini, Anthropic is very good. Even the last one, the 4.5 is
4.5. Yep.
so
It's Sonnet
cool.
4.5.
It's incredible. I used a bit Copilot to, but it's amazing, especially when you don't know the language that you are using. I am doing something in React, and it's incredible, that even I never developed in React, I could, do something in that. So I try to understand what is happening, but it's incredible that you can do something even if you don't know the language and you don't know everything about the language. You need to know a bit of the class, the method, the main architecture, but it's quite good. Then,
Uh, I had a funny incident today. I was attending a Google Dev Fest today in the morning,
mhm.
and ideally the speaker should have spoken about the Gemini models, since it's a Google's event, right? But the speaker kept mentioning about ChatGPT and Claude and how to use that
Yeah, of course.
instead of preferring Gemini. I doubt if anyone is using Gemini for coding task at least. People are preferring Claude over that.
I think Gemini is a quite behind. Don't say to the to the person that did the seminar today, but Gemini maybe is a bit behind ChatGPT and Anthropic at least in the
I think,
coding
yeah,
skills.
in either text related task or
Yeah,
maybe coding
yeah.
related task. For image, I believe it works well at least.
For me, it's amazing. Yeah, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, we don't code with images, so.
yeah. I think I'll move more towards now AI into marketing field. My question would be, what type of use cases are there when it comes to using AI in marketing?
Mhm.
For example, uh, are these the generic ones? So I know a few, like for example, it could be chatbot, it could be some translation service, but I'm not sure how exactly it works into advertising or marketing
Mhm.
field. So when it comes to use cases, let's say we'll start with the easy ones, so simplest use case, and then the most complex ones that you have faced so far.
Okay, okay. Well, the I think the problem that you have in marketing and in advertising is the number of people that you need to reach and how fast you need to reach these people. Especially for advertising, but even I think for marketing, it's essential that you are very fast. For example, when you have to you're advertising on the phone, you need to be very fast because you need to buy the place to show you the advertising. So it is really played on big number. So you need to the challenge is to develop things that are scalable and they can be deployed quite fast can give a response quite fast, and they should be also good because you need to, of course, have a quality in what you are doing. So this is the first problem. So you need to have something that is scalable in that sense. In marketing, one thing that is very interesting for sure is the recommendation system. So that's the thing that you have basically in all the big companies, from Amazon, Netflix. Recommendation system are really the base. So if you have a quite good recommendation system, it really gives you an edge because you can really increase even 1-2% in sales throughout this recommendation system is incredible. So it should be user friendly. So a big component in the marketing and advertising also the UI. So you have also to collaborate with designers, because it should be, today people have a attention threshold that is very low. So if something takes more than 1 second, it's not good. So they skip it. They should be very friendly, so they need to find everything in the application, and they want things that are simpler, but they need to show what you want. So recommendation system, I think, is the thing that you need to have, the things to start from in marketing. For advertising, it depends. There are several branches. So there is more the computer vision. So to create advertising that people click more on that before, compared to another one. You need to know a lot of scalable systems. So Spark, Hadoop, yeah, this is good because you need to manage a large data set of data. And for both, I think one, especially in Europe, that is crucial is privacy. Privacy is really important. So you need to know a bit of technique to anonymize data, and you need to be very careful when use this kind of data. Yeah. For advertising, maybe one of the thing that can be good is like to get the audiences. So um, you want to don't give to all the people the same advertising, the same advertising, but you want to target your audience, because it has a cost, even if it's not a huge cost, but it has a cost. So optimizing who needs to see some advertising is very important. So if I know that you go to McDonald's and I'm doing a burger campaign for Burger King, I need that you need to see that, because I know that you go to McDonald's, or if you come from a certain area, for example, where people buy a lot of cars, I try to make sure that you are seeing this campaign. It's not you as an individual, but it's you as part of the audience. So they don't focus on the who is seeing that, like me, Simone, or you, or another person in the specific, but you are a part of a bigger group. So the aim is that you get the right audience in this huge number of people. So this is a bit the idea.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
When
Oh,
it
one
comes
question.
to, yes, Rachel.
When?
Yeah, one question here regarding this problem itself. I was reading a LinkedIn post that, let's say, from a designer, I believe, that they collect some heat maps from where a user clicks on that application, for
Hmm.
example, or how do they navigate through any platform. Is that something that you guys do in marketing? I mean, what type of data are these based on which you decide where to use AI or when not to use that?
Of course, when small parenthesis, but when you have your app and you have your data, of course you can do everything you want. If you
Yeah,
need to buy data from someone else, in the case of the advertising, you don't have your data because you at least even you have your application, you can do that. But in the case you have your application, your website, you can do what you want. So the advantage from Meta, LinkedIn is that they have so many data, so they can do a lot of cool models because they have a huge data set. They have a lot of behavior from the user, and yeah, they can do things like that. For example, one thing that for sure is done that you can find in Google Analytics. How many times you clicked on an item, what is the time that you spent on a page. I know for sure, for example, in Meta, they use how much time do you spend to watch a video, how much time do you stay, how much time do you click, do you search that page.
yeah.
Of course, when you have your data and you have your application, you have all your data in house. So this is the advantage that you can use, and that's why a lot of applications are free because you can collect all the data, and
Yes.
it's amazing because you can do everything, even the heat map that you were talking about. You you can do everything basically.
But are there no companies who have already built some model related to that? Is it always that if someone is working into any marketing project, do they always fine tune or build their model from scratch, or they use the existing ones, maybe built by Meta or Google or someone?
Mhm. It depends on the size of the company. I guess if you're LinkedIn, you're going to build your model, and you don't want to share your model
Yeah,
because it's done on your data. So you have so many data that you can do so many A/B testing. I think the quantity, if you go to conferences, the quantity of research paper that they present is huge, and they don't put everything in production. They do so many research paper just for research, and then a teeny amount of that goes in production. And of course,
right.
if you're LinkedIn, Meta, you can do that. But for a smaller company, basically how the size decrease, you try to do everything you do. You try to put it in production. So maybe you are doing less research. For example, the one of the heat map that you were saying, you don't do that if you're a small startup. If you have 2,000 users per month, you're not gonna doing something like that. But for example, you go more on classical approach, recommendation system, click per item, click per user. You see how many time how much time you can pass between one time you buy something and the next time you buy something. These kind of more heuristics, more statistics that are much simpler. But for sure, in the case of a bigger company, there are so
But
many research paper.
I still have a doubt here. For example, let's say we have these LLMs these days. We know that we have one enterprise grade version. So, if, for example, ChatGPT or Gemini, but
Hmm.
we have something in open source also. We have Llama, we have next one, right?
Hmm.
So we have the models here, and we know the names that, yeah, if we do not go with ChatGPT, we can use the alternative Llama, right? My question is, let's say, is there any such category of models in marketing also that you guys either choose to use in the workplace? For example, if you're not going with the paid version, you use that free model built by someone. Is that the case in marketing?
Yes, it's the case if you want to keep your data and you want to have control on the pipeline from the start to the end. So you want a control from end to end. We use an open source model and we host in our server. We have
Right.
our RAG, we have our fine tuning, and we use not API. We use our model and we do everything. But for other tasks, for example, if you need to do an agent and you want just to collect some data and you take some simple decision where you don't see, for example, sensitive data, you can use API because they are
But what type of models are there in marketing and that are in open source or maybe in paid one? Can you name something? Uh,
there are not particular models because nowadays what is really important is your data. So the model, the foundational model that you have, ChatGPT, the same Llama, 70 billions is enough if you
yeah.
have a good RAG system and if you have your data, it's enough to do that. Then for even for recommendation, the domain are very different one from each other. So the important is the data. So once you have your data and you don't need to fine tune your model, you just need your data rag system and it's done. Maybe an API, even if you don't want to use a model, you just use an API and it's fine. So I think today really RAG system are fine, at least for what I worked on. Then maybe there are other application in which they use
Yeah.
some particular model, some from Meta, from Google, but
For example, in case of I think time series forecasting, we have something called as Prophet.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's released by Meta, right?
Hmm,
So
hmm.
this can be considered as a foundational model on top of which we can either build our own model or you use that directly. So I was wondering if there's something that we can do in marketing also for any specific use case if we have.
Well, in my experience, when I work in the smaller startup I was talking before, we used Prophet, for example,
Yeah.
something, but we were not using a large language model because in our case, for example, you just used BERT because the other thing that you need to also to catch up is the cost. So you don't want to pay too much to do things that you can do even with a BERT or even simpler model like fast text and this kind of approach. So in that case, you just need a smaller model and it's fine. Uh, but yeah, in general, if there is something that already works, a library that already works, for example, in the case of recommendation system, you just go for this, for that, and that's fine. Then, if you want to know to have more control on the data and to use your specific case, you can go for a custom solution. But,
Okay.
really depends, I
Can
think, on the
you,
size.
yeah, can you let us know what's the complete life cycle of a recommendation system
Mhm.
or any recommendation system project which you have worked from start to finish, how it looks like, what kind of
Yeah.
data you collect, and what, yeah.
Well, as all the machine learning projects, you need to pre-process your data. So you have your data, but they are always dirty. So first thing you need to do an analysis that takes a lot of time because you need to see what your kind what your data look like. If there are, for example, we I remember that we had a problem like with the data, with the born date, the birth date. It was like someone was choosing like something 1900 that there was this choice, so people just put something random, and so we're like people that were was like 1000 year or so, or they have like 12 years because in the interface you could choose that, and so yeah, just to clean this data and say okay, we cannot use this data. So you have to pay attention to all this kind of stuff, but at least if you have your data, it's okay because you know the identity, the characteristic of the person that you're analyzing, and that's great. So this is great. This is one of the what we call the metadata that you can use.
Right.
And this is the first aspect. Then you have the other aspect that is the behavior of the person. So you have the metadata and the behavior. The behavior is how the person is using the UI. So how many times per day he go on the site, what kind of purchase is doing, what is seeing, what is clicking, what we were saying before. So you have all the behavioral aspect that is very, very, very important. And the idea is to merge these two kind of information that you have. There are two approach that you can do. That is the item user approach. For example, in the case of the collaborative filtering, that is an algorithm that was done by Netflix, or user. It depends on what you want to do. So if you want to propose the same similar items to this person, or you want to find a behavior inside the user that you have. So it really it depends on your goal, but actually you have this two kind of problem is more a classification problem. So try to predict the class of the item, or to predict the category of a person that you are looking at. Or there are some also regression problem. Try, for example, to understand when the people will use the app, on when the person is doing his purchase, or when will be the next time, the next item that you will purchase, in that sense. And then a huge part. So the model is not so huge part, because has all the machine learning problem, because you have already maybe some libraries, so it's okay, you just fine tune your data. I think the most important part is the A/B testing, because in the A/B testing you can really show your stakeholders why they pay you, and what you did was good, was a good job. So you increased 2% the visits to the site, so it's good. And this is a huge part, because you really need to plan the A/B testing in the right way, and you need to try to get something from this dirty data, because sometimes there are people that use they change the behavior, or they don't enter, they enter once, they don't enter anymore. You have not so many data. So for example, in the case you have not so many data, you have a few user, you need to organize your A/B testing, for example, in the geographical area, but you have, for example, two people in that geographical area. So it's I think this is one of the crucial part. So the first part and the last part, more the model, the fine tuning is fine. It's not a big deal, but the pre-processing and the A/B testing is crucial, I think.
Okay.
To continuing on this topic, what is the which is the most complex project you have worked on so far into AI marketing?
Wow, this is this is huge. I think there is not one problem, but the data I work on today is more about the cleaning the data, because you have many data, you have so many data. Sometimes they ask you for something that maybe you cannot do really with your data, so you need to before infer other characteristic, and then use this characteristic to do what they ask to. I think the most difficult thing that is also people that switch career and they move in the advertising domain, is to deal with so many data. Normally, you have people that worked in pandas. Even I worked in with pandas, but in advertising, you have so many data, so you need to know how to manage this amount of data, For example, you have one of the most difficult data set that you can deal with is the mobile data, and you can have like 50 million pings per day. So each ping is a position of the your mobile phone, uh, and so you have this data that are sometimes are not coherent. So you cannot check manually each one of that. So you need to find a way to pre-process this data, to clean this data. You buy them from providers, and sometimes providers give you data that are dirty, so you cannot use them. So you need to discard this data. I think the most complicated part is to deal with pre-processing, and this is one thing. And the other thing that is complicated is the scalability, because you need to that your model is can scale to, if you did your model for 1 million people, you need to do for 50 million pings. So these are the two aspects. I don't go in the deep diving in the in one things, but yeah, this is two aspect that you need to keep in mind if you go to in advertising.
Have you used LLMs for data cleaning task
Mhm.
ever?
Not particularly. We used something to do like to creation dataset, to create some dataset. Sometimes you have data, but you don't have all the data. So you want to create, for example, some data, and you can generate some data, but not especially for cleaning. No.
When
I
when you
was
say when you say generate, so it cannot generate a lot of data, right? LLMs cannot generate a lot of data. So how do you use that generic data?
Yeah, but for example, you have some data from human annotation. So you have your colleagues that did the job for you. Thank you to them. And then you want to, for example, you have 100 cases, and you want to go to 1,000 because you want to do an evaluation, or for example, you have this data for one country, and then you want to try to do that for more countries. You can use LLM, for example, in the description, not tabular data. I'm also speaking about document or report, something like that. And you can use LLM, but not really for processing, yeah, I would say.
I was experimenting recently with the LLMs for data cleaning tasks. So
Mhm.
I had a few tables with me, and there were certain columns where a user was intended to only fill a fixed number of values. Let's say we have some drop downs where only 3 to 4 values are allowed, but
Mhm.
they somehow, let's say, they did it manually and they have written something out of the box. Now my task was to classify them either of the one of the drop downs there. So maybe, for example, let's say we have a category, and the same category is written in some different language, in a, maybe, for example, in Italian it could be a different word for the same
Mhm.
drop down. Now, since the data is manual, so I had to standardize it basically, and that's when I was experimenting and wondering that whether we can use LLM or not. To my surprise, it worked well, but sometimes it hallucinated a lot. So instead of giving a direct response, it sometimes converted into a sentence and then explained the response. So 90% of the times it worked well, but there's still a risk in using LLMs for any kind of pre-processing or standardization, unless we design it in a way that it only gives what we want at the end.
Yeah, you're totally fine in the sense that the problem is then evaluating what he's doing, and you cannot
Yep.
check by hand everything. So if I need to set some rules to check to evaluate the LLM, maybe I can do already with the rules. Maybe I can use a model, a simple model, not rules based, but you can use a simple model, and you can have the same result or something similar, because evaluation is a big problem when you use LLM. And then there
Yeah.
is the other problem, for example, in the case of advertising, in case of the data I used, is the number of rows that you have. So if you use LLM for 2000 rows, it's fine. But once you start to 20,000 rows, 2 million rows, 5 million rows, even if the API are cheap, but you can go to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
So this is another problem. So even if you work for a big company, but uh, 20,000 euro for to cleaning data maybe is a bit too much.
Yeah, I think in case of using LLMs, let's say if I want to prioritize a standard output, now I need to write a detailed prompt for that. Let's say 400 or 500 words prompt to properly define what to do, give some examples, write the
Yeah,
output
yeah, sure.
structure, and then let's say I have million rows. Now I have to take this prompt, pick that first row, and get the output. Then do the same for million rows here. I
Mhm.
think I'm not sure if I think that would be a bit costly, but it sometimes works well, at least I would say.
Yeah, I think you can use a batch, so you can put like they have really huge window size of input that you can put, but I don't know if the quality is preserved. In sense,
Yes,
if you, as you say, if I put one example with one prompt, it's gonna be fine. But once you increase the number of batch that you are putting for one prompt, I don't know if you put 1 million rows with one
there
prompt
might be
is
a, yeah, slight
gonna work
drop
in
in
the same
accuracy.
way. Yeah, the quality will be preserved. So yeah, totally is a big concern. So I think preprocessing is still a human task, a human skill here.
So
What do you think is the best way to evaluate the LLM output in case of, let's say, simpler task? Also, let's say I'm using LLM to do a certain task. For example, I'll consider any data from advertising.
Mhm.
Now, how are you going to evaluate that? Maybe let's start with what type of data set is this, and then how do we do that?
It depends really on the task. For example, if you want a task, if you need to generate some reports, in the case, advertising, or you need to generate, for example, your audience, you have something and you want to generate your audience, you need to do your evaluation benchmark. So you need to create something that is the best one is to be human annotating if the data don't suffer from data drifting, so they still remain a bit the same, and you don't need to change them. You need to add new data. The best thing is that you create your data set, your benchmark, and you try to evaluate them on the semantic, for example, the BERT score. You need to do some tasks, some questioning, answering. So it generate the test, the report. Then you ask some question based on the generate that he reported, and you evaluate how many of them were right. Or you can use another LLM, but this is not something that I like, because using another LLM to evaluate if the my LLM response was good is a bit like a circle, it's not something you don't have control even in that case. So the best one is that you have your benchmark, and you can do with some human annotated data, even if you cannot cover all the tasks, but at least you have something that you can control, because doing evaluation each time is complicated. It's really complicated. I think it's one of the most difficult part that especially companies that have a lot of data are facing, because you need to evaluate things that change over time. You have different clients, so you cannot do one benchmark for client. So yeah, this is a quite huge task.
Have you bought subscription of any AI model, any AI tool?
Yeah, I say the Copilot was a Copilot. I tried Anthropic
Okay.
for that,
I
but
think Anthropic costs somewhere around $200 per month or 20. Is it?
it depends. There is one at $20, the one. I think is a good compromise. Even
Yeah.
Copilot is, I think, is a good compromise to have.
Okay.
When you were talking about data collection, so there was one part privacy. So you said that in Europe, privacy is a concern. So how you see it, and what kind of like actually problems come when it comes to privacy of collecting of users'
Maybe,
data?
yeah. How does data masking actually happens? Let's say.
Mm. Well, it depends in the sense that in Europe there are many rules. This thing called GDPR that is something very serious in Europe. So they can do an audit to your data, and they can see how do you use data and how you store your data. So you need to demonstrate that you don't store data that are not necessary on what you are doing. So, for example, one thing that you need to don't store all the data, also because it is expensive, but you don't need to store unnecessary data. And you need to demonstrate that the data that you are using are really the one that you need. So you don't need to, if you don't use, for example, uh, the sex of the person, you don't need to store it. You need to demonstrate that you are using the data that you have. And the second thing that is a bit more difficult is that if you take the data set, you should not be able, without looking at the ID, to recognize that person. That so this is quite complicated because sometimes you have some kind of data in area where the density is very low, and you need to find a way to mask the identity of that person. But if there is one person in one village that does just that thing, could be complicated. So yeah, but it's quite complicated. And then in the advertising, there is another law that is quite important, that you need to assure that is done in your data set. If I don't want that my ID, my phone ID, is tracked by and is used for advertising, I can ask to remove it from the dataset. So providers could not sell my ID. And if they sell, even if they sell, and I buy it, I need to assure that that person doesn't want to be there. So I need to assure also that even if they sold me something as an error, I need to be sure that that person won't to be used the data.
Uh, what areas do you think are still untouched by AI in marketing or advertising? So,
Which tool you mean?
I'm interested in knowing which areas in marketing or advertising are still untouched by AI. That means AI is yet to
Ah,
step
okay.
into that field. Yeah.
Wow. I think the things that you cannot replace for now, I think, is the sales part. In our job, I think in the tech part, I think I cannot think something that you cannot do with the AI, even if it's not suggest to do it, like, data cleaning or things like that. But I think all the tech part, in theory, you can do it. But the other parts, in marketing, things like that, at the end, you are going to sell things with the human touch. So this cannot be replaced for now. You can use, yes, some AI to send messages, to send email, but the things that really work, the relationship that you build with the customers, with the agencies, it depends in what we are talking about. But in the case of B2B, it's really the relationship that you build with people. But from technical parts, yeah, I think I cannot think something that you say, yeah, you should, you cannot use, at least. No, you should, yes, but you cannot. I think maybe everything,
So, are you afraid that if a day comes when data scientists or people with technical expertise are not needed directly, okay, not as an individual
Mhm.
contributor, then what should be the next step for people like us? I know
Next
that's a
step,
doomsday,
it's
doomsday
complicated.
question.
Yeah. It's complicated. Yeah, yeah. It's a tough question because it really hit us personally. And as we said, I think in the starting, it's really learn new skills. So you cannot stay with the same skills for even 6 months. You are out, so you need to learn new libraries, new framework. You need to go outside. Data scientist as a role today does not make mean, too much sense. So, or you are specialized in that, so you want to be really specialized in, I don't know, in biophysics, biostatistics. So I know these models and I do really deep dive research, is fine. But if you are a data scientist and you work in the industry in general, you need to know a bit everything. So how to use AI, how to build model, how to deploy the models, even if you are not doing this stuff, but at least you need to how the software engineering are doing that, because you make the work easier for them. And the companies try to hire people that are much wider sets of skill compared to the one that is just doing PyTorch and statistical models. Then it depends. If you want to go for research and startup that are doing something really a tiny part of the domain, you can be specialized and then doing, for example, bioinformatics, but I know bank system, bank models, what but in general, if you want to be a well-rounded data scientist that can switch from a domain to another, uh, you need to upgrade the skills. We need to upgrade the skills.
Yeah.
Continuing on the same topic, uh, do you mind sharing the tools and technologies that you work these days? You work on these days as a data scientist, maybe.
Yeah, basically for the Python, of course, SQL is they are still crucial.
Yeah.
They are not enough, but they are crucial. So some people say, "Ah, no, SQL is dead. Python is not enough," but it's not enough. It's true. You need to know to have something else, but they are really the crucial set of skills. So it's mandatory that you know Python and SQL. Then, if you want to work in advertising or a bigger company, you need to have some scalability skills. So I'm talking about Spark, Hadoop. You can choose one, and for sure. For example, I use PySpark, but you need to know how to build and how to use this file. For example, pandas is fine, but you need to use parquet file. You need how to store this file, so the optimization. You need to know Docker, so you need how to deploy system, even if you are not the one responsible for, but you need to know how to write your Docker, how your system need to communicate, for example, with other server, for example, Docker Compose, this kind of stuff you need to know.
Hmm.
Fast API. So if you need to deploy a system, you need to be able to get or to send some data and know how to do that. AWS, um, Google Cloud, what you prefer, but you need also to know how to store data, how to get data from from your bucket. And yeah, I think these for and of course how to write a package, your package. So be able not just to write your model on a notebook, but once your model work, you need to switch and go to write your packages. So use your class, use your packages that can be reused outside and can be used by other people. This is
Right.
yeah, you need to be a more like data engineering, software engineering, even for example, another thing, the ML ops, for example, using ML flow to track your experiments. Yeah, I think you need to know a bit of everything, maybe master well one thing, but at least you know how to do your Docker image, how and you write your class and you deploy your model. This is crucial, and then it's fun because you can do some personal project, not just for your work. That is
Yeah.
Right.
fine. That is nice.
One more question. Do you think we need more software developers as compared to data scientists in any company?
I don't know if we need, but I think it's going in that direction. So I think yeah, I think we can come back to the what we were saying, that data scientists are dying a bit. Like the pure data scientist is
Okay,
almost
it was
gone.
not me who was saying the data science is dying.
No, no, it's me. It's me. I take the
Yeah.
the full responsibility. That the yeah the profile is changing, and I think yeah we are going more on the trend to have software engineering that can do data science more than the data science, uh, the pure data science, or the data scientist that can do a bit of software engineering. But yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
the problem I say is that roles are getting mixed up, most of the roles, and
Yeah,
until you are not a very big corporation which have like different departments and a lot of people for different categories, in the middle organizations or small organizations, you are going to you have to know everything a bit, right?
yeah,
Have you?
yeah. Sorry, I
Yes.
interrupt you.
No, no, I interrupted. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
you're totally right in the sense that if you want to work for a smaller company, startup, if you want to found your startup, if you want to create your product, you need to be well-rounded and to know a bit of everything, at least, and then you can deep diving in one of that, and you can have more skills in one of that. If you want to go in some subdomain, in some niche, you need to know, for example, data science for one domain, and you are gonna be fine. But honestly, in my point of view, I prefer to be well-rounded, that not go just in one niche and be the guy that just do one things. I think it's more interesting to have the first set of skill. But yeah, as you said,
Right.
if you are in niche, go in the niche, and it's fine. If you studied bioinformatics all your life and you have a great background in that, it's gonna find you. You can find a job in that, but you cannot. If you are bioinformatics and you can just data science, you cannot be expected to be hired by a startup that is doing marketing and need a guy that can do everything. This is for sure. It's not gonna
You
happen.
you have done you have done PhD, and I was doing after my bachelor. I was like, no, I'm not gonna study anymore. I'm not gonna do master. I'm not. I couldn't even think about doing PhD ever, because that is we are studying from like it's more than like around 18 years, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
study anything more. I gonna go. I want to go into the industry and want to get the experience to work things. So
Mhm.
I think it becomes hard, and also it's not preferable right now to be just master of one, right? Rather than like I guess right now we should all try to do more things, try to check on, because if you are going to just get into more one domain, one niche, things
Mhm.
gonna get tougher, because at the end then you have to be like top of uh, in that domain, right?
Yeah, but even if you're not in the top, but then it's gonna be difficult to move from that niche. So again, I don't know why this night I'm going on the bioinformatics, but if you do bioinformatics and it's gonna be difficult to switch and to go, to the bank sector, in the marketing sector. But yeah, as you said, it depends. So I don't want to kill your dream to pursue a PhD. But yeah, I don't regret to have done my PhD, but yeah, maybe if you can do both, it will be perfect.
So,
But it's a bit
so
complicated. Yeah.
yeah, Shreyas. Yeah.
Have you ever had an experience of something like you fucked up using some AI tool in your work and you realized and you immediately fixed it? Have you ever came across this situation?
Like using an AI tools and
Yeah, using AI in your work and you realize that, yeah, it's not going well, I believe.
yeah, I used it, and it depends. I think it was both way in the sense one sometimes you use it and say, "Oh my God, I'm gonna be replaced by it because it's so good," and it did exactly what I said, and it did very well. But sometimes you ask something, even if you ask in the correct way, and it's really bad, and say, oh my god, it's going never to replace me. So there is a this dichotomy, these two kind of states. But yeah, I think it happens very often, the two once once a day, I mean.
Right. I guess we are going to wrap up, but before that, the last question, last topic, that if someone is coming into the industry, so what are your tips for them? What things you want to make sure that?
Learn everything.
this is
Okay,
this will be an easy one, an easy one. This is correct,
okay,
but this is too easy. That is.
okay. So if someone is coming into industry right now, so what one tip you want to give them?
Okay. The first, I will be boring, but yeah, the skill that you need to have is problem solving, in the sense that you need to really to have a problem and to solve it. That is a general. It's not really a technical skill, but is something that you need to do. Sometimes you have some problems and you really need to say, okay, I can do it, even if it's complicated. In general, in the industry, people don't like when you say, no, this is not possible. So at least you need to find a solution. Then this solution will be not the optimal one, but you need to try to find a solution to what they are asking for. The second thing is the also is not a technical skill, but maybe communicate. So you need to be able to communicate what are you doing, why are you doing that, and what are the benefits that that you provide in doing that. This is also so important. And third one is yeah, all the technical skills that you can have that are more complicated. The two first one, because the two first are big general, and for sure SQL, as we said, Python, Spark, if you want to work in the domain. A/B testing, so statistics, you need to have that for sure. And yeah, I won't say everything, but for sure you need to have this one. Then you can go and you can pick a model and you can deploy it, but you need
Yeah.
to have a bit of everything. Yeah, yeah, this is for sure.
Okay.
But for sure, scalability, this solving a problem, and the problem need to be scalable. This is the match that you need to have. You must have to do things, because you are not doing things in pandas or CSV, so you need to have these two kind of skills.
If someone actually hears the last one, then he's gonna drop the idea of ever coming to the industry.
Yeah.